I follow the issue of energy damage because in the second part of my mandate in the European Parliament, I was in the Committee on Energy Industry and Research, and therefore I had the opportunity to access a whole series of documents, studies, reports, discussions with experts, with the great, let's say, CEOs of the main European energy companies. And so I said, let's say, immediately when this crisis of the war in Iran broke out with the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, that the consequences on the markets and on the real economy, because the financial markets are one thing, the real economy is another, will be much longer term than one might think. Because as Goldman Sachs stated, and it was their comprehensive presentation of data that inspired me to create this video, their analysis provided a very precise overview of the situation and the consequences, in fact, the negative impact on inflation, but also on productivity, on global GDP, and then clearly on the GDP of Western countries. And it will be long-term, it will be long-term. Even if the war ended tomorrow and the Strait of Hormuz reopened tomorrow morning, it would take months to reach this level of trade in goods, but it would still take years. It would still take years to reach energy price levels. And why is that? As it's a known fact that energy shocks have lasting effects, both in terms of their duration and their considerable impact. All economists and analysts know this. But it must also be understood that this closure of the Strait of Hormuz is not universal, but selective. What I mean is the strait is closed to the passage of only and exclusively those ships transporting oil or other such goods, as we've discussed, including fertilizers or other products vital to the Western economy, only those originating from Western nations, therefore American, Israeli, or those countries allied with them, Somaliland. While ships headed to China, to other countries in the East, Asia, and the Far East pass through. They have always passed through. And this clearly results in a difference in the opening of shipments, in the opening of shipments. But the fact that there is this slowdown, this virtual closure of the transit of fuels, starting with oil itself and also of liquid gas. And be careful, it's not just oil, but also the liquid gas that arrives from there has caused and is causing a very significant reduction in production. Goldman Sachs says 17 million barrels per day is expected to be the collapse in production at the height of the crisis. And therefore, no one knows when this strait will reopen. No one knows what conditions Iran will dictate. If until a few days ago, Donald Trump was saying, but in the end, I'll control the strait along with the Iranians, Iran clearly responded by saying, quote, forget it. I mean, this is our territory, we'll control it. And in fact, they're already talking about imposing a toll on all ships that pass through. So there's, in addition to the irreversible increase in insurance costs for cargo ships passing through there, which is why insurance companies from now on, even if there's eternal peace, will price policies higher, because you never know what's going to happen often after what's happened. So all this will have an impact on energy products in Europe and the West in general. In the long term, it's very, very dangerous for the stability of our economic system. So today, for example, the markets have seen a big rebound, that is a drop in the price of the premium guard by 4 points, and an increase in GDP in the Standard and Per index, which are the ones that give a bit of a thermometer, of the health of the markets. But these are movements that are, let's say, not very relevant for the real economy, which are influenced by announcements, estimates, projections, sentiment, by market analysts, but do not reflect reality. To have a real idea and a real scenario for exiting this crisis, knows how long it will take, and above all, no one knows what the conditions will be. The only certainty is that in any case, the price of oil, realistically, as Goldman Sachs says, will not return to levels, that is, it will not return to $62 a barrel, but if all goes well, it will settle at around 80. So basically the pool. Who's not in air will does not exist yet.